Hi guys, welcome and who dat? I'm Joe, and I'm here to bring you the 90-man roster entering 2023 training camp for our beloved, bless you boys in black and gold, the New Orleans Saints. Now, training camp starts this week. The Saints have made some moves. We've signed 3 veterans to 1-year deals. We've signed guard Max Garcia, who played with the Cardinals last year. We signed offensive lineman Trey Turner, who last played with the Commanders last year. Of course, Turner, former LSU and former draft pick by the Panthers. And we've also signed tight end Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham's back with the Saints, and he's going into a pretty full tight end room. So all of these moves were made on offense. In order to make room on the roster, we've released tight end Miller Forstall, and we've released guard Coda Martin. So let's pull up the roster, and we're going to examine it, and we're going to talk about what could possibly happen for the Saints here through training camp. And here is the offense. A lot of Saints content providers will talk about the roster from beginning to end and never show you the roster. I guess it's too difficult for them to create a simple chart like this. Here you go, guys. You can pause the video and you can examine it and you can make your own determinations. So this is the offense going into training camp. Now, I'm going to talk about all of the positions and try to work my way towards what the final 53-man roster will look like. That's impossible to predict at this point, but here are the pieces you have to work with on offense so far. At quarterback, we have Derek Carr, Jameis Winston, Jake Haener. Derek Carr is our starter. We've hooked the wagon to this, and we're going to see what happens. Jameis Winston, he's been with the offense for a while now. I don't think he's exceptional. I don't think he's going to compete for that starting job for certain. And I think you need 2 different offenses when you're talking about an offense run by Derek Carr or even Jake Haener, and an offense run by Jameis Winston. I think that's part of what our problem was last year on offense, where we were trying to make it Winston friendly, and then he ends up getting hurt again, and Andy Dalton comes in and does okay. And I think what Andy Dalton provided, his skill set, albeit, low ceiling, was something that Pete Carmichael was used to dealing with. A guy that can get the ball out quick, a guy that doesn't move around a lot, a guy that is accurate, a guy that doesn't hold on to the ball. And, I think once we decided to go with Dalton, it was like training camp. Everything we did in training camp was for naught because we were, we were focusing on Winston running the show. And there is a difference. Derek Carr comes in and he provides the ability to call the offensive line protection, which frees up Eric McCoy at center to just play as a blocker and not have to worry about this stuff. McCoy's production has gone down in the last 2 years, and I think it's primarily because he was forced to make the calls at the line of scrimmage, and maybe that's just too much on his plate. I don't, unless he's a declining player, and I don't believe that. I think McCoy's going to have a better season this year, and I think a lot of it's going to have to do with the pressure being taken off putting it back with Carr. Breeze was able to do those things, and McCoy was, on pace for an All-Pro season every year. And let's see if he gets back to that. I think quarterback's interesting because we also have Taysom Hill. And, he's limited, but at the same time, what he does well. So, in my opinion, we actually have 4 quarterbacks. Now, if something happens to a team this year during training camp and a quarterback goes down and a team is scrambling to find a good backup or replacement, a veteran to come in, the Saints are lucky we have Jameis Winston. Some people are saying Jameis Winston's the best backup quarterback in the league. This may happen. There may be a trade offer at some point in training camp. I don't wish injury on anybody, but I think if the Saints had the ability to trade Jameis Winston and pick up anything, 5th round pick, 6th round pick, whatever, it could be an option. They could get even more than that if a team is desperate enough. Jameis Winston is a former All-Pro, and he definitely has the talent to put up 4,000 plus passing yards. If he can keep his turnovers to a minimum, you could have yourself a solid quarterback if you're in a pinch. So all I'm saying is it's an option. We could very well end up with Derek Carr, Taysom Hill, and Jake Haener. And a lot of that also has to do with how well Haener performs in preseason. A lot of people are excited about training camp. I'm excited about seeing the backups in preseason. I'm really excited about watching Jake Haener this preseason. I'm a weirdo, I guess. But as it is right now, Carr and Winston and Haener are the quarterbacks. Now, we can't put Jake Haener on the practice squad. He's going to have to take a spot on the 53-man roster, I believe. The fact that Haener was a 4th-round pick prevents us from putting him on the practice squad. That, and, there may be teams out there who want to give this kid a shot. So I'd be afraid to put him on the practice squad. I would hate to see a 4th-round draft pick get stolen right out from under us. And quarterback is the most premium position. So I believe all 3 of these quarterbacks, Carr, Winston, and Haener, will make the 53-man roster. All the caveats that I've included. All right, halfback. Alvin Kamara. He's our starter. What a great player. A down year last year because he wasn't all-world and he didn't see the end zone much. We got to admit he's a great player. He's settled out of court, so now it's up to the league to determine how many games Kamara will be suspended. I believe the league will make this decision before the season starts, so I believe we will be starting the year without Kamara. And personally, I think it's going to end up being a 4-game suspension. If Kamara appeals and he can get it down to 2 games, it would be a mini miracle given the past relationship between the NFL and the Saints. Roger doesn't like the Saints all that much. There's video evidence of what Kamara did, regardless of what the courts said. So I believe the league's going to try to hit him with 4 games. And if Kamara can successfully bring that down to 2, it'll be a mini miracle. But I believe it'll be 4 games. And we'll have to start the season with 3 other running backs. Those will include Jamal Williams and Kendre Miller. That last spot is up for grabs right now. Eno Benjamin has been with the team since about the middle of last year. And we've got a guy in Ellis Merriweather who's been with the team since this offseason. we've released a few running backs, including Derek Gore and Sir Roderick Thompson. So for us to keep Merriweather over those guys, Saints seem to like Merriweather. So I can't make a determination between Benjamin and Merriweather until I see what they have to offer, perhaps on special teams as well. So, but I'm going to go ahead and pick Eno Benjamin as our fourth running back because of the experience, and we'll see how that plays out. But it'll certainly be Kamara, Williams, and Miller. And the season will likely start with Williams and Miller and Benjamin. So I believe that's your four running backs. AK, I think Jamal Williams is a great addition. Excellent addition, actually. I believe he's got the ability to do it all. I think he can hold up much better between the tackles than Kamara. Williams has lost a lot of weight, like 20 pounds almost since he's been here. He's down to like 217. He used to be like 230. So, I mean, he's trying to be a little lighter. I think he wants to be an all-around back. I just hope he doesn't lose any of the power. And then we have Kendre Miller, the rookie, who hasn't practiced at all. The Saints have taken him off of their injury list, so we expect to see Kendre Miller this training camp. Now, I watched a lot of film on Miller when he was in college, and he reminds me, believe it or not, of Mark Ingram, except much faster. That's what I see when I see Kendre Miller. I see a good downhill runner, pads always squared, big feet, can move them quick. He doesn't get tackled on the first try, and he seems to just be a bowling ball rolling out there over everybody. Didn't have to catch a lot of balls when he was at TCU, but he can. Apparently, he has the ability to catch, and I believe that's going to be a focus here in training camp, is how versatile can Miller be. I can't wait to see him run the ball. Can't wait. If you guys don't see the similarity in Miller and Mark Ingram, you know, it's just like a running style to me. It's just almost upright and feet moving fast, but the knees don't come up that high. I mean, I don't know. I really like Miller. I've liked him since before the draft. And I'm kind of excited about this guy because, you know, he could be the future running back for the Saints. If Kamara doesn't get it all together, you know, I believe there's a lot of tread left on the tires for Kamara. I believe he's too talented of a player, and if you utilize him correctly, I believe he still has all-pro ability. Now we're going to look at the fullback, Adam Prentice, and we also have Jake Vargas. Not a lot of teams run fullback. Vargas is a good one. Prentice is very good as well. If you have two fullbacks on your roster, they're probably two of the best fullbacks in the league because there just aren't that many. We do use fullback a lot. Fullback is a position where I feel like if you're a tight end on this team, I'm looking at you, Lucas Kroll. If you're a tight end on this team and you can somehow work fullback into your repertoire, then you can have a spot on this roster. I believe having a straight-up fullback in Adam Prentice is almost a wasted roster spot. We need a fullback, and we want someone who's really good. Can any of our tight ends play that position and play it well? Apparently not, because we're giving Prentice competition with Vargas. And Adam Prentice just does not do anything else. He doesn't play running back. He doesn't play tight end. I think a staple for this roster is players who are versatile. So I really wish someone like Lucas Krull, who probably has a lot on his plate learning tight end in the NFL, could prove his worth, in other areas like special teams and multiple positions in the backfield, fullback. If Lucas Krull could be a tight end and a fullback, we wouldn't need Adam Prentice, right? Lucas Krull wouldn't need to worry about a job. I focus on that. Let's go straight to tight end. Juwan Johnson and Foster Moreau are going to make the team. There's no doubt about that. And at the bottom of this list, I have Taysom Hill, who is the utility player. I have him under tight end, but he will play quarterback. He will play wide receiver. He could play fullback too. Taysom Hill can do it all. So you're definitely going to have those three at tight end. Juwan Johnson, Foster Moreau, Taysom Hill. Now, do we keep a fourth tight end? Most people predicting 53-man rosters right now think that we will keep a fourth tight end. And a lot of them are leaning towards Lucas Krull, and so am I. He showed a little bit last year, and this training camp's going to determine whether his fate's on the active roster or back on the practice squad. But we have those two veterans there in the middle with Jimmy Graham and Jesse James. Jesse James is a good run blocker. When I look at Juwan Johnson, Foster Moreau, and Taysom Hill, I see pass catchers, and Morrow, is a pretty good run blocker. Taysom Hill's an okay run blocker, and Juwan Johnson's getting better as a run blocker. Jesse James is probably the best run blocker out of all of these guys. Do we want to keep a fourth tight end like we have in the past? That's a run blocking specialist. Or do we want to go with Jimmy Graham, who, once again, another guy who is just okay at blocking. He doesn't really want to do it, but he can provide a lot receiving because of his size, especially in the red zone. So you pick your poison. Do the Saints go with a fourth tight end run blocker in Jesse James, or do they go with a fourth tight end pass catcher in Jimmy Graham? I'm leaning towards Lucas Krull. I'm hoping that youth plus his upside as both a run blocker and a pass catcher is good enough for the Saints to want to keep him. Now, if that happens, and we do keep four tight ends, some position group somewhere is going to have to be missing someone. Like I say, we're not going to be able to put Haener on the practice squad. So, wide receiver, this is the logjam. A lot of people think we're going to keep six. If we keep six wide receivers, we're probably only going to keep three tight ends. It's just the way the numbers work. I lean more towards four tight ends and five wide receivers, and I'll tell you why. Because if you have five wide receivers, you still have other receivers on the team. Juwan Johnson is a wide receiver. Taysom Hill is a wide receiver. And certainly Alvin Kamara can be a wide receiver. I miss those days of lining Alvin Kamara split out wide as a wide receiver or a slot receiver. I miss those days. We didn't do that much last year. We didn't utilize Kamara much at all last year in the ways that we should have, I thought. To a degree, Taysom Hill, too. When we were in the red zone and we would run plays without Taysom Hill and Kamara on the field at the same time, it drove me crazy. So, yeah, I believe keeping five wide receivers is adequate, especially if you don't have a standout special teamer there. Rashid Shaheed promises to be our kick returner, punt returner, and he looks like he's developing into a very good wide receiver. So you got Michael Thomas, you have Chris Olave, you have Rashid Shaheed. Now we're either going to keep two more or three more. Certainly two more. A lot of people are pointing at A.T. Perry and saying he's a draft pick, so we have to keep him. Well, he's a sixth rounder, and every team passed on him when he projected to go in the third round. I'm not sure if there will be a scramble for A.T. Perry should he end up on the practice squad. I'm going to be honest with you. If we release A.T. Perry and Shaq Davis, and both of them go on the practice squad, I believe more teams would go after Shaq Davis. That's just me. I don't know. We'll see. But you've got A.T. Perry, and I'm going to mention the guys I think that are in the running for these last 2 to 3 spots. So after Thomas, Olave, and Rashid, I think Traquan Smith and Bryan Edwards are your next 2 guys. And I know that upsets people, including myself, that Traquan Smith would still be in the conversation. But Traquan's got the experience. You know, he drops balls. Yeah, there was one day in minicamp, or I think minicamp, where he caught 3 touchdowns. You know, and then the next day he drops one and gets hurt or something. So that's Traquan for you. But the veteran presence is there. The size is there. Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed are smaller, faster guys. Michael Thomas, Traquan Smith, Bryan Edwards, big guys. Do you keep a 6 wide receiver? If you do, it's likely going to be James Washington. He's got good speed. He's more of a Olave Rashid guy. He's a veteran. He could work out really well in this offense because of, because he's a veteran. Then you've got everybody else down there. And special teams could be a consideration here. Keith Kirkwood has been with the team a while. Kirk Merritt, who I think looked pretty good at wide receiver. He's been trying his role as a running back since the end of last year and in the offseason this year. Kirk Merritt has been a kick and punt returner for the Saints as well. So Merritt is a guy who's trying to be a jack of all trades. We'll see if he can do enough to beat out a James Washington or a Keith Kirkwood or an A.T. Perry for a 6th spot on this depth chart. We also have Kawaan Baker, who was suspended 6 games last year and didn't get to play. But, every time I see Baker in preseason, I like him. Keep an eye on Kawaan Baker again this year in preseason. I'm pretty sure he's going to stand out for a couple plays, and he's going to make this conversation more interesting. And we rounded out with Lynn Bowden and Keke Coutee. I believe those guys are trying to be versatile to make a spot on the roster as well. Right. So, there you go. Wide receiver. Log jam. We're definitely keeping 5. We might keep 6. I'm leaning towards Traquan Smith and Bryan Edwards to be that 4th and 5th. And if we do keep a 6th, I'm leaning toward James Washington. Like I said, A.T. Perry will have to turn things around in a big way. Much like Marcus Colston did when he was a rookie. Colston looked like he was going to get cut after OTAs and minicamp when he was a rookie, and then he turned a corner in training camp and was forced into playing in a couple of games early on in his career, and he made plays, and that was how Colston made it. Can A.T. Perry do the same thing? Training camp will determine that, but as of right now, A.T. Perry looks like he can't catch the ball. And finally, on offense, the offensive line. We want our starters to be Trevor Penning at left tackle. And, ideally, we would love for Nick Saldiveri to be the starter at left guard. But, that's not going to happen as a rookie, I don't believe. Andres Pete will get the start at left guard. Eric McCoy will be at center. Cesar Ruiz at right guard. Ryan Ramczyk at right tackle. Will we keep 10 offensive linemen or 9? If I was in charge, I'd want 10, but I believe we're going to keep 9. So you've got your 5 starters in Penning, Pete, McCoy, Ruiz, Ramczyk, and then I'm going to add 4 more. James Hurst, of course, who is starting caliber tackle and guard. I believe Nick Saldiveri is way too valuable to be putting on the practice squad. He'll either be on an injury list or he'll be on this 53-man roster. Nick Saldiveri, a 4th-round draft pick for the Saints this year, who I believe the Saints are hoping can pick up on being not only a guard in the NFL, but also a center. A lot of people are thinking, Saints coaches included, that Saldiveri's best position may be center. He needs to learn how to be an NFL player first. So I think we're just going to focus on him being a guard for right now. Calvin Throckmorton, who's been our backup right guard, and he can play left guard too, for the last couple of years. And you've got Landon Young, who's been on this team for a while, who can play left tackle and right tackle. Okay, so what's going to happen here? Those are the 9 I've mentioned. Those are the 9 I think are going to make the team. However, we signed Trey Turner. We signed Max Garcia. Trey Turner can play tackle as well, both guard spots and tackle. Now, Lewis Kidd is a guy whose versatility in that area, of the ability to play tackle and guard like James Hurst. Lewis Kidd is a guy who I thought was too valuable to let go. I would want him to be our 10th offensive lineman because we need that backup swing man, especially if Eric McCoy goes down at center. Then we're going to put Ruiz there, and we're going to have to fill Ruiz's spot at guard. You've got Throckmorton and Saldiveri to do that. It would be nice to have, confidence in whatever you do at this point. You expect Pete to miss some games. You expect Ruiz to have to slide over to center at some point. So, yeah, you're going to need a couple of good backup guards. We addressed it with Nick Saldiveri in the draft, and now grabbing Garcia and then a former Pro Bowler in Trey Turner. Obviously, the Saints are concerned about it as well. Your other backup guard, well, you've got a backup center in Alex Filstrom, and he's an undrafted guy. So, maybe the Saints keep Trey Turner. Nick Saldiveri is not going anywhere, and we just re-signed Calvin Throckmorton to a 1-year deal. Maybe Trey Turner takes Throckmorton's spot. Maybe we feel more confident there, that we have a veteran in Turner that can come in for either a tackle or a guard spot. That's very possible. So instead of keeping Throckmorton, perhaps we keep Trey Turner. Landon Young, that's another one. I'm not impressed with Landon Young, but even though Storm Norton's a veteran, and I've seen some Saints pundits say we're not going to keep Young, we're going to keep Norton instead, I believe I'd rather start Trey Turner there than either one of those guys. You've also got Scott Lashley there at tackle. All right, there's your offensive line. So Trevor Penning is the big question mark. He's a great run blocker, and he struggles at pass protection. If you're no good at left tackle protecting your right-handed quarterback on pass plays, then, you're a liability. Last year, it looked like Penning was going to turn a corner right before the season started, and then he got hurt. But James Hurst is a good player. I believe he only allowed 2 or 3 sacks last year, and he played more snaps than any other offensive lineman for the Saints last year. I believe James Hurst would be my ideal backup tackle and guard. Even if you have Trey Turner, I believe James Hurst is the guy I would end up starting across the board if Penning is our starter. And, I just don't think that that's solidified yet. Trevor Penning hasn't shown me anything as far as pass blocking goes that we should say, hey, he definitely needs to start. He needs to start because he's a first-round draft pick. But we don't need our quarterback killed because the guy can't pass protect. So we're going to see what Penning does. I have a feeling Hurst isn't going to play much in preseason. We're going to see Penning out there the whole time. And we did that last year, and he played all 3 preseason games and ended up getting hurt at the end of the 3rd one. So we'll see. Hopefully Penning looks really good as a pass blocker, and then I won't have these reservations. But if we have to start James Hurst, I don't think we're going to struggle as a team. It's just going to really hurt to have another first-round draft pick that doesn't pan out. That's where I'm at on the offensive line. All right. Let's pull up the defense. There's our black and gold boys. Oh, starting at defensive end. Cam Jordan, Carl Granderson, Tano Passigno, Peyton Turner, Isaiah Foskey. Those 5 will make the team. Jabari Zuniga and Nico Lelos can go to the practice squad. I think this goes without saying. I think that your 5 are set in stone here. The question is who's going to start. And I believe it's going to be Carl Granderson. The undrafted guy is going to hold back the first-round pick in Turner and the second-round pick in Foskey. Because I think Granderson is a better all-around player right now. He's better against the run. Personally, I thought our defense looked outstanding at the end of last year. We only allowed over 20 points once in the last 8 games we played. I believe we allowed exactly 20 points twice. But we allowed 27 against the Ravens. But other than that, in the last 8 games, it was under 20 points. Those last few games, you remember, we were allowing 10 points, 10 points. I mean, the defense was in charge. Cam Jordan had cranked it up a notch, and Carl Granderson was our starting opposite end. Peyton Turner was a healthy scratch for a lot of those games, and we were playing Davenport. Davenport ended up with a half a sack, and now he's getting paid $12 million a year with the Vikings. Good luck with that. Peyton Turner had 2 sacks in 1 game last year. But like I said, he was a healthy scratch at the end of the year, and that's not good. People say Turner's problem is he can't get on the field. Well, he was healthy last year, and he couldn't get on the field. So I guess what we're saying is because he was injured so much in his career so far in his 2 years, that he hasn't been healthy enough to get good because he was healthy. He was on the bench last year. So we want Peyton Turner to turn a corner. And then we want Isaiah Foskey to learn. And then the next couple of years, maybe Foskey can take Jordan's spot. Of course, that'll be years from now because Jordan looks to sign a contract extension and finish his career with the Saints. The only problem I have with Carl Granderson is he plays up and down to his competition. So, yeah, he finished the year strong last year. I think he finished with 5.5 sacks. But he was in preseason last year in the 3rd and 4th quarter, playing against everyone's backups, and he wasn't doing much. So that's the kind of guy he is. He he plays like an average player against everyone's backups, and then the season comes and he's looking okay against starters. So, that's it for the ends. Let's look at the defensive tackles. I believe we're going to start the season with Nathan Shepard and Colin Saunders. We signed those two players because they were pretty good against the run, and we need to improve against the run. Now, we've always had pass rushing deficiency from the middle of the defensive line. So we go ahead and draft Bryan Bresee, who looks to be a guy that can make something happen rushing the passer. Malcolm Roach rounds it out. I believe those are our four defensive tackles. You've got Jerron Cage, Jack Heflin, and Prince Emili. And if those guys want a job in the NFL, they're probably going to end up on the practice squad. They're going to have to try to get better. Nathan Shepard, I don't know how much of pass rush you're going to get out of him or Colin Saunders. But we have to improve against the run. Can Bryan Bresee be an all-around player and show that he's good against the run as well? Remains to be seen. If Bresee can get a starting spot on this line, that'll be great. He's a first-round pick. But I think it's gonna end up being Shepard and Saunders on the early downs. Bring in Bresee on pass rushing downs. Malcolm Roach is a good player to come in either case. That's how the defensive line stacks up. Our biggest deficiency is at linebacker. Outside of your two main starters, Demario Davis, Pete Werner, everything else is question marks. Pete Werner's question mark is whether he's going to stay healthy. If he stays healthy, then I think Davis and Werner are the best two linebackers out there, and can't get much better than that. We don't typically play three, but we will, and when we do, it looks like Zach Baun is going to be the Sam once again. Zach Baun has had the opportunity to progress. He hasn't shown much. He's good on special teams. He doesn't play a lot because we don't play that position a lot. But in order for him to solidify his spot on this team, he would have to learn multiple positions, and that's what we need. And I don't think Baun, who used to be a defensive end, is capable of playing the will. Now, Caden Ellis was a defensive end, started with the team at Sam, and managed to learn how to play the will. And when he got a chance to play last year, he played very well, and now he's with the Falcons. I don't think Baun's got that in him. I don't think we're going to see a jump with Baun, especially not like with what Ellis did. Ellis stood out to me in preseason games in the first 2 years we had him. Ellis made plays. Baun, I don't ever see him making very many plays. So you still need somebody who's good at that position at the Sam. And so Baun's there. And we also have Anthony Orji behind him. He was an undrafted guy, but he showed a lot in OTAs and minicamp. Orji looks like a guy who not only can play the Sam, but might be able to transition to the other side. So I believe we're going to keep Orji behind Baun. And behind Demario Davis, I believe our leader is DeMarco Jackson. Jackson was a fifth-round pick last year, but he got hurt. But he was healthy through the offseason, and he showed during OTAs and minicamps that he can play the will and the middle. Jackson's actually been making plays. He's your leader there for now. And at the middle linebacker, you also have Nefi Sewell, who I really like, and Ty Summers. And our biggest deficiency is backup will. Backup middle linebacker, backup will. DeMarco Jackson right now is that guy, and he's unproven. We have Andrew Dowell and Nick Anderson at the will right now behind Werner. Nick Anderson has struggled this offseason, his size, as far as trying to cover people in the red zone. Bigger tight end targets in the red zone. He's not very good at it. Andrew Dowell's a very good special teamer, and Dowell can make plays when he has to play linebacker. He's got the versatility to play will and in the middle, so we like Dowell. We have a feeling, I believe the Saints organization has a feeling that Werner's not going to stay healthy all year. And you're going to need somebody to play there. DeMarco Jackson's the guy right now. So I believe the Saints are going to make an addition to this linebacking group. I believe they're going to go and try to find another linebacker, a veteran, someone who can play the will and in the middle. I believe the Saints are nervous right now if something happens to Davis or Werner. We should all be worried. Of course, DeMarco Jackson may prove to be a great player. Only time will tell. That's where I think the Saints will make their next addition. It will be a linebacker. Somebody who can competently back up Davis and Werner. It's a shame that we have to go to free agency this late to try to find somebody to ease our minds. But when it's all said and done, we'll probably keep 5 linebackers, and that'll be Werner, Davis, Vaughn, Jackson, and Anthony Orji. If we do keep 6, we'll have to make a cut somewhere else. Like I say, we'll probably bring in another person. All right, now let's look at the logjam at defensive back. Cornerback, your top 4 are set in stone. Marshawn Lattimore, Alontae Taylor, Paulson Adebo, Bradley Roby. And then you've got all these other guys fighting for a spot. We could keep 5 cornerbacks. We could keep 6. We like to keep players who are versatile and can play both positions. I think when it's all said and done, we're going to keep 10 DBs. Whether you want to have 5 cornerbacks, 5 safeties, those backups are going to have to be versatile. So at cornerback, we're looking at Isaac Yiadom and Adrian Fry and Lonnie Johnson Jr. and Troy Pride Jr. Lonnie Johnson can play safety. Troy Pride has been up and down. Adrian Fry showed a lot in the OTAs and minicamp, especially minicamp, I believe. But Isaac Yiadom is the guy that I believe is going to grab that 5th spot because he is a special teams ace. And he's been ahead of the depth chart here above all these other guys for now. I don't know if Yiadom can play safety or not. Lonnie Johnson Jr. can, though, so if we don't keep Isaac Yiadom as the 5th guy due to his special teams ability, we may keep Lonnie Johnson due to his versatility. So as far as cornerback goes, who's going to start? I think it's a good problem to have. I don't mind Paulson Adebo on the outside. He doesn't transition to the inside. Alontae Taylor does. Taylor's trying to learn that nickel spot now. So what do we do? If we go with a base defense, Lattimore and Taylor on the outside, when we go to nickel, we could slide Taylor on the inside and put Adebo on the outside, and then you have your best 3 players with Lattimore, Taylor, and Adebo on the field. But Taylor's not great at nickel right now. Bradley Roby is. Now, Bradley Roby can play outside, but he excelled at nickel at the end of the year last year. Roby has speed, whereas You may want a nickel back with some size from time to time. So maybe you'll see Taylor play nickel in certain situations when we need a guy with size. But I believe Bradley Roby's got that nickel spot. One of these guys is going to be on the bench for a little while, for some plays. And unless Paulson Adebo blows us out of the water again this training camp, I believe it's going to be Lattimore and Taylor on the outside and Roby at the nickel. And then you'll substitute Adebo in every now and then. You'll put Taylor on the inside every now and then. That's the way I look at it. Now, in training camp or mini camp and OTAs, when Bradley Roby hasn't played nickel, he's the starting nickel right now. When Roby hadn't played nickel, second team comes in. That guy has been Ugo Amadi. So let's look at the safeties. Ugo Amadi is your primary backup nickel right now, and then Taylor's been getting reps as well. But I believe Ugo Amadi being an outside or being a safety and being able to come down and play nickel, I believe that's a valuable spot to have. I believe Amadi has a spot on this roster because of that. Your starters at safety, of course, will be Tyrann Mathieu and Marcus Maye. I believe Jordan Howden has shown quite a bit in the offseason. I believe Howden's a guy that he may not be chased after if we put him on the practice squad, but I believe there's some versatility there. There's some upside, and I believe Howden's got a spot on this team. You've also got J.T. Gray, who is our special teams ace, our special teams captain. He just signed a 3-year deal. I don't believe J.T. Gray's going anywhere. I believe we like what he can do at safety. He had 2.5 sacks last year. So I believe we're going to keep 5 safeties, and I believe those safeties will be Mathieu, Maye, J.T. Gray, Jordan Howden, and Ugo Amadi. That's what I'm leaning towards right now. Ugo Amadi being versatile to be able to play nickel. Jonathan Abrams is going to have to show that he is a great high round pick for another team. He's going to have to come in and show that he can do multiple things. Smoke Monday is an undrafted guy we want to see a lot out of. And I'm really excited about Anthony Johnson. He's another guy that can play safety and cornerback. And you could list him as a cornerback. But I think when it's all said and done, we'll keep Lonnie Johnson and Adrian Fry on the practice squad and Anthony Johnson and Smoke Monday on the practice squad. That's the way I'm looking at it. I believe our final 10 DBs will be Lattimore, Taylor, Yadam, Adebo, Roby, Mathieu, Maye, Gray, Howden, and Amadi. Whatever you guys think, you can let me know in the comments. This is what I'm leaning towards right now. But like I said, none of this is set in stone. That's your black and gold right there. We'll see what other moves we'll make, who else we bring in. I believe we're going to target a linebacker here pretty soon. Keep an eye out on the Saints possibly trading Winston. And, yeah, a lot of battles here. The only players I haven't shown you are special teams. We've got Lou Hedley, who's competing with Blake Gillikin as the punter, doing well, but I think Gillikin gets the job. And we have Blake Grupe at kicker, performing well, performing against Will Lutz, but I believe Will Lutz will have that job as well. Will Lutz missed, I think, 7 kicks last year, which was not very good, but, throughout training camp, he only missed 1 kick. He was 47 out of 48. Then he goes in the regular season and misses 7. I don't know. Practice is just practice, but I believe Lutz and Gillikin will be our kicking specialists. And, of course, Zach Wood at long snapper. So that's the breakdown of the roster. I've shown you the different rosters throughout the last couple of months and all the changes we've made. This was the video where I'm breaking it all down. I hope you guys enjoyed this long video about our Saints and our 90-man roster heading into this year's training camp. Subscribe to Rosenbuilt 10 for more videos about the Saints. I'm Joe, and thanks for watching. Who dat?